Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Red Hour, a show I do twice a week where I throw a little bit of chaos into Star Trek by reviewing a random episode. So today's episode is season 2, episode 1, the 37s, and it starts off with Janeway on the bridge, and she says rust because they detected rust out in space, and so they follow the trail of the rust to find out the location, uh, and then they detect gasoline, and so they zoom in, and it's an old timey, 30s truck. So that's the teaser, and then you go to credits and the theme. So they have the truck in the cargo bay, and and Tom says it's a 1936 Ford. He explains that was the year that it was built, and Ford was the manufacturer. And he knows a little bit about, um, old time cars. So Tuvok says that there's no wormholes in the area and no like time I forget what they call it, like time. There's no timey wimey shit going on, and so Tom like inspects the truck, and it still has gasoline in it. There's still water in the radiator. The battery's working. Um, and so he finds the key and starts the truck. And they're also inspecting the end of the truck has like manure and dirt and stuff, and they suspect that this guy or the person who owned the truck was a farmer. So they turn it on, and there's Harry asks what he points to the radio and asks what that is, and he says it's an AM radio, but I doubt you'll get any signal out here. And he's flipping around, and it turns out they do get a signal. It's a SOS signal. So they follow the SOS signal to a planet, but they can't use the shuttles, and they can't use the transporters because there's some kind of interference, and so they have to land the ship manually, or land it. And when they go to land the ship, Tuvok calls for a blue alert. And then there's been other times I think in lower decks where they used Discovery uses a black alert when it goes through when it uses the spore drive. And then in lower decks they had different alerts, but so this is a new alert, at least at the time. And on their way through landing, there's like EM discharges that are kind of shaking the ship, but they end up landing safely and get out to inspect the planet, and they find a 1930s plane. This location has been used before in Star Trek, particularly in TOS. I don't remember seeing it in TNG. Probably has been used before. It's not the Vasquez rocks. It's something different. So inside the plane, they're like, surely the battery would be dead by now. And inside the plane, they find like a charging device that's charging the plane, and that's what's it sending off the. That's how it's able to send off the SOS. It's automatic SOS. and then they find a well, I guess they call it an alien power source. Then we get this episode has got quite a few some sort of or some kind of. So they find some sort of mine shaft. That's what they say, Chakotay, and some kind of power that has some kind of power system. And when they get into the mine shaft, Torres says there's some kind of cryogenic or cryostatic chamber. So there's 8 bodies, and they're like vertical, so they're upright. And there's Chakotay says that there's 5 other chambers that have no life signs. So this is the only chamber that has life signs, and they're scrubbing the cryogenic chambers to see like what kind of people are in there, and it's all humans. And there's one woman that Janeway says has some sort of leather jacket, and it turns out she's Amelia Earhart. And then there is, when they're talking about Amelia Earhart, they somebody asks who she is, and Janeway explains that she she got lost, and nobody could find the plane, nobody could find the bodies, and it was a big mystery for many years, in the 20th century. And she says that some people thought that her and her navigator might have gone on some sort of romantic adventure. I told you there was a lot. There's a lot of them. And all in one episode, by the way. So Tom's just waking them up, and B'Elanna is kind of against that idea, and because they don't know how they would react and all this stuff. So Chakotay suggests that only the human members of the crew be present when waking them up, and Janeway says that she wants to bring Kessel on because Kess looks human enough. And they wake him up. As they're waking him up, there's a Japanese soldier, and Tom points to him, and he says he has some kind of weapon. And then you have Amelia Earhart, a black dude, an Indian woman who has no lines at all, and Amelia Earhart's navigator, who plays the actor who plays Tackleberry in Police Academy. So the Japanese guy starts talking, and everybody can understand him, even though it sounded like he was talking Japanese or whatever. And Janeway explains that they have universal translators, and then she explains like what happened to them, that at some point they were abducted by aliens, and they don't believe them at first. And Tackleberry has a gun on him, so he pulls a gun on them, takes away their phasers, and takes them hostage. And they there's a issue. I forget what this issue was, but they say that there's some kind of deflection beam or deflection system, and that's why they can't beam down. That was the issue. Tacklewater takes them hostage. Janeway tries to talk to Amelia Earhart, and she shows the group Kess's ears, and they say, well, something about Martians taking over the Earth, and Harry says that it's the other way around. Earth colonized Mars in 2103. Tuvok takes, and then on the ship, Tuvok is getting prepared to go down, or they can't. It's not that they can't beam down; they can't beam into this cave, this mine. That's what it was. So they have to go to a separate location, or no, they can't. They can't beam. They're already landed on the planet. So maybe I misunderstood something there. Yeah, they can't. Okay, so that's what it is. It is that they can't beam in. They can't beam Janeway out of and the group out of there. So they have to go in there with a security team, and basically Amelia Earhart wants to see this ship and convinces everybody else to go see this ship, and the black guy, they tell their stories too. The black guy says he was driving down the road, all of a sudden he saw this beam of light, and then the next thing he knows, that's all he remembers. And Earhart tells a similar story, so then they start believing them. As Tuvok and the security team show up, there's a group of they have like masks on or whatever, but they're aliens, and they start shooting at them. As Janeway and her group come out of the mine, they see the shots being fired, and they take cover and stuff. And eventually, and Tackleberry gets shot. And it turns out the aliens are human, and they thought that Voyager crew was some aliens that the aliens that captured these people. And he explains that these are called the 37s, and there was a group of humans that were captured, abducted from Earth back in 1937, and they were used as slaves, and then eventually the humans revolted and took over this planet. So back on the ship, the doctor is like working with Tackleberry, and he thinks he's going to die, and tells Amelia Earhart, or I keep saying Earnhardt, not Dale Earnhardt, Earhart, that he's in love with her. And then right at that time, the doctor heals the guy, and he says, "Oh, just forget what I said." So, like I said, they were brought here as slaves. But now they have these lush cities, and they go to visit the cities, but we don't see that part. And then they come back, and Janeway's in her ready room, and Chakotay walks in, and they start talking about how maybe they should just stay on this planet, because the guy says that they can stay here with them and live with them. And so they're contemplating that, and then because she's worried that, what if our journey, like, we can't find a way back home and stuff. And so she decides to make an announcement. Oh, Chakotay talks about how he wants to go home. He wants to go back to Arizona, and he wants to swim in the Gulf of Mexico. And I thought it would be funny if like, what if in that CBS lawsuit, Trump were to or what, make them replace that with Gulf of America. I just thought that would be funny. Uh, so the captain's to make an announcement, and basically everybody, the crew, can choose for themselves. And I guess the conversation was that, how many people do we need to fly the ship, to run the ship? And her dilemma was like, should she just, order everybody to remain? But then she decides that everybody can just choose for themselves. And then the 37s are talking in the mess hall, and they're saying, do they want to stay or do they want to stay on the ship? And they have that conversation. Harry and B'Elanna talk about it, and they talk about staying and what it would mean. And then Earhart goes up to Janeway and basically tells her that the 37s are going to stay. So, and then they go back onto the bridge, and Janeway looks around, and everybody on the bridge decides to stay on Voyager. Now, and then they leave, and that's the end of the episode. Now, what would happen if the whole entire crew just said, fuck this shit, I'm going to stay here, or what if maybe the amount of crew people, what if a lot of crew left, but some people stayed, but they didn't have enough to run the ship? I mean, what would they do? I think the better solution would be to not even say anything about this guy, or this guy offering people to stay there, or just order the crew, say that we need this many crew, and I'm going to decide that you and you have to stay, or whatever. I don't know. That just kind of silly, and stupid. And I gave it a 3.5 out of 10. The 0.5 is just for like, it's cool to see a starship land. I don't think we ever seen that. And then you wonder, can the Enterprise land? Or the other ships land? I don't know. But anyway, it was like really boring episode, and it was hard for me to even, for it to capture my attention at all. Kind of like this week's episode of Strange New Worlds, which I'm not even gonna talk about it. They bring back they do a lot of things. Apparently Lon knows how to do a Vulcan neck pinch, so anybody can learn that now. Which I think in Lower Decks, a non-Vulcan was able to do a mind meld. They do stuff like that all the time, and I've already given up on this show, on Strange New Worlds, because it's clear to me that they're not even attempting to make it fit within the TOS timeline, even though they swear up and down that it is. And the episodes are just bad, and it's not even worth. It's like bad, like on a whole different level. This episode was bad, but their episodes are bad on a whole different level. And I, I'm lost for words, but let's see if there's anybody out in the chat. There's nobody out in the chat. Okay, so, well, I'm going to pick the. I'm gonna do the random episode generator for next Wednesday, and so the episodes will be on Wednesdays and Thursdays from now on, 8 p.m. Eastern. Almost said Central. I don't even live in Central Time Zone. So, and again, I'm happen to mess up. Right now, it's on a Lower Decks episode, which I messed it up. And I'm not even reviewing Lower Decks right now, anyway. So we're at. Sorry. Oh, I'm gonna press the randomize again, and let's see where we end up this time. Discovery. So we're not doing Discovery either. Let me see. It says Discovery. Let's try it again. Enterprise. Oh God, I don't like this episode that much. It's Enterprise, episode 2. Season 2, episode 6, Marauders. I want to see if I have actually done that one before. I've done so little Enterprise that I can't remember. So far, I haven't had a. Well, the last one I did was okay, I guess, but this one's not that good. Marauders. So next Wednesday, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, I will do Enterprise Marauders. So. This is a kind of a short review because it's not much that I can say about the episode. It's not like thought provoking. I mean, yeah, I guess you could think about what would it be like if all the crew just left. I mean, that's the end of the show, right? Or what if they had, like I said, not enough crew to run the ship? What would they do? You could almost do like some kind of controversial thing where Janeway, kind of like on Battlestar Galactica or something, where Janeway basically becomes like a dictator somewhat. Kind of like Adama, you could do something interesting like that, but then it turns dark. Is that what people want out of their Star Trek at that time? We just went through Deep Space Nine, and Deep Space Nine was kind of controversial. I mean, looking back, it's probably the better of all those, even TNG. Uh, and we just had like a war. We just had the Dominion War. So I think people wanted to get back to exploring. So you probably wouldn't want to go that route. But you could have struggles with, okay, there's not enough people to run the ship, but they're going to go forward and keep going anyway. And then those crew members just live on that planet, and then uh, they have to go recruit more people along the way, and then you have those people interact with the crew and have those type of interpersonal conflicts. That would have been interesting, but they didn't do that. Everybody just decided to stay. Now I get it. Most people probably would because they have family back home, but some people would be realistic and say, okay, it's going to take 75 years to get back, and realistically, that's probably not going to. We're not going to be around that long. We're probably not going to make it back. And even if we did, a lot of the people that we love would be dead or really old or whatever. So I'm just going to stay here on this planet and have a life. But that could have been some interesting things to explore, but they just said, nah, everybody decided to stay, and that's it. Anyway, I'm the Dead Man. This is the Red Hour, and hopefully we'll see you all next time.